Your view is that we are on a long-term path of escalation in the region, not de-escalation. That's based on the situation that we see between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, but also the most recent strikes with the Houthis. Why do you say we're on a path of escalation here?
Yeah, I think unfortunately we need to be prepared for more escalation, really on two fronts. The Houthis are proving to be far more effective at disrupting international maritime trade, and the military response so far from the U.S. and the U.K. has not diminished or degraded their capability, which means we're going to need a much larger military response from the U.S. and the U.K. in the next several days to try to take out more of the Houthis' capability. So we need to watch that. On the other side, Israel, I think, is going to continue on their path of conquering Gaza in the next 4 to 6 weeks. They are then now already focused on the second phase of their war, which is to push Hezbollah 32 kilometers back into Lebanon, which is even more controversial in a way from a geopolitical or military perspective. And we need to see what Hezbollah does to respond.
Israel and Netanyahu continuing to threaten this offensive in Rafah. That's despite international condemnation and clear concern in the region about the overall consequences of that. Charles, is there anything that the international community can do now to stop Netanyahu?
No, I think at this point, the war cabinet in Israel is going to continue on their path, which they've told the world they're going to do, which is, again, the full conquest of Gaza. We may get a temporary ceasefire, which is, as you know, they're working on between the U.S., Qatar, and Israel and other countries. But even if it is a temporary ceasefire, Israel will go right back in and finish. They will take Rafah. Even the Biden administration, which has had a rhetorical pivot in the last week on Gaza, and really ratcheting up the rhetoric and the sort of threats to Israel, saying, please slow down, please stop, please be more mindful of all the civilian casualties, for example. I think even with that pivot, Israel is going to keep doing exactly what they're doing.
Let's just focus over to Russia as well, because I know this is a focus for you. Putin's long-term nemesis, Alexei Navalny, is dead, and his death has drawn widespread condemnation from international leaders, including President Joe Biden, who said he was both, I quote, not surprised and outraged. The reaction from President Trump, though, has been interesting. He's failed to condemn Putin. He also failed to really mention Navalny by name here. So what is the political calculus for President Trump, and why have we seen such response to his lack of response?
Yeah, look, I think President Trump's response was classic Trump, right? Brought it all back really onto to himself, and pivoted immediately to how he's persecuted in the United States, for example, by the deep state and all the other issues that all the perceived forces that he believes are working against him. But the assassination or the murder of Navalny, the world has condemned it. We really need to view it as a major move by Putin to eliminate one of his political rivals. The time was intentional during the Munich Security Conference and right before these upcoming elections in Russia. But anyone, including President Trump, who doesn't condemn this in the strongest possible terms, we should be very concerned about.
So the question now is, what type of response are we going to see from NATO and from world leaders on this issue? For how long are they willing to stand back and watch Putin continue to take out his opponents?
Yeah, I think that, unfortunately, because of the Ukraine aid package that is being held up in Congress, in the U.S. Congress, at the moment, that's where really the Biden administration is most focused, trying to get that aid approved. Secondly, Ukraine is losing some ground in the war. They just lost a major city, for example. So I think we can condemn the Putin regime for, again, assassinating or killing Navalny. But I don't think that unless we get this aid passed and really help, the Western alliance helps Ukraine, I think Putin's just going to keep going. I mean, unfortunately, Russia's winning this war at the moment, and we need to do everything possible to strengthen Ukraine and help them hold the line.
Just on this issue, do you think, and you mentioned this, but you think Navalny's death makes Congress more likely to get Ukraine funding over the line? And then as a second point to that, how do you see this relationship now evolving between Russia and the West in the aftermath of Navalny's death? And what impact could it have on global security more broadly if we saw tensions ratcheting up between the US, Western leaders, and Russia?
Yeah, I think Navalny's murder, I think, actually can help Congress be a bit more unified to get this package through. I think that, that may be the one silver lining from this horrible event that happened. And we'll find out when Congress gets back next week if that works. I think more broadly, though, given that we've had the assassination of Navalny and Russia taking that the Ukrainian city a couple days ago, I think that all of that combined will hopefully, provide more impetus for the U.S. and NATO, again, to help strengthen Ukraine's defenses at this point. Because, again, Putin is on the front foot in this war. And the fact that President Trump and the far right in America are really standing against this aid package, for example, is incredibly unhelpful. So, again, I think that these two most recent events may actually help get Congress in the right place to get this done.